Hello, my name is Kirioth, and today we're going to talk about two things from the Forge World Open Day. One of them being Adeptus Titanicus, which I don't know why. I every time I go to talk about it, I want to just call it Adept Titans, and I have no idea why that is. Like, I think my brain just gives up after the first half of each word, which is ridiculous and stupid because it's never been called that. Not only that, but also the surprise announcement of the year for me personally, which is Lord of the Rings. There is a new edition of Lord of the Rings, and weirdly, I am more interested in the new edition of Lord of the Rings than I am in Adeptus Titanicus. Which, it should be the other way round, I'll be honest. It should be the other way round. Adeptus Titanicus has looked kind of cool, and it's one of those things that I've looked at occasionally and gone, yeah, I could see myself playing that. But it's yet another specialist game, which will probably require a bit more to get into. The pricing of this thing, I'm still not sure about. I've seen God knows how many conflicting reports since the Forge World Open Day. There's some people saying it's going to be like 120 quid, other people saying about 140. I've seen people saying it's going to be 180 quid for the Grandmaster Edition, you know, the big starter set. And no matter how it's been kind of described so far, it don't look cheap, I'll put it that way. And for a specialist game that's coming out kind of in August, which is not that far after Kill Team, I feel like this is more of a niche product than some of the other stuff. That's the only way to put it. I feel like it's a little bit more... I feel like the audience isn't going to be as big, but I don't know whether that's just me because I'm not hugely invested in the look of it or anything. It just doesn't have the same mass appeal that I think I'm seeing from things like Kill Team, especially since Kill Team is of course relying on models that you may already have. In fact, most people will have stuff that you can use in Kill Team, whereas Adeptus Titanicus, you know, it's a whole new thing. It's a whole new set. It requires a whole new bunch of models. It almost feels less like a specialist game and more like a direct but limited competitor to 40k itself. Now, a lot of that is probably just down to personal perception. I'm sure that there are many of you who will be going, no, that doesn't sound right at all. That's fair enough. That's just how I've ended up seeing it as we've got more information. It looks interesting and it looks good, but there's something about it that isn't grabbing me hugely. I don't know whether it's the scaling. I don't know whether it's the board that the like the various glamour shots have been taken on, which I just don't really like the look of, I've decided, for whatever reason. There hasn't been a huge amount of fresh information, but in a way that is a problem for me because I was hoping for fresh information to kind of, I guess, sell me on it. I don't think I've really been sold on it yet, and I've yet to see anything that has, you know, that is selling me on it. Which is unfortunate because I think Games Workshop on the whole are doing a really good job with both the new editions of stuff and the specialist games. I think they've pretty much nailed most releases in terms of big releases. Things like codexes, we've talked before about how things like the Xenos codexes felt lacking due to a lack of new models and so on. But, you know, the rest of it, they're doing a pretty damn good job at the moment. Which is why Adeptus Titanicus feels a little bit off to me because it just doesn't have that same appeal that a lot of the other stuff has had. In contrast to that is the surprise announcement of the Forge World Open Day, which I kind of expect to see information about Adeptus Titanicus there. I was not expecting to see anything remotely like a new edition of Lord of the Rings. As someone who has been like completely 40k focused for the entire time I've been, you know, buying Games Workshop products. I might have bought the occasional Age of Sigmar thing, I might have like bits from other games that they've made, but the actual, you know, playing time has been dedicated almost entirely to 40k. Even the newer specialist games, I got some Necromunda stuff, but that was for use as 40k models. Well, I've sold them now, but you know, that was the original intention for them. The actual game itself I haven't played. I don't play Necromunda. Same for things like Blood Bowl and even Shadespire, and it's on the list of things to play, but I just haven't got round to it yet. Lord of the Rings has always occupied a weird point for me where it's like, okay, here is the main thing they do, which is 40k. Here's the other thing they do, which is Age of Sigmar. That is not entirely accurate anymore, but whatever, that's how it's been in my head for a while. To be honest, Age of Sigmar is now popular to the point where I don't really think that is in any way an accurate way to look at it. If you look at some of the scale of some of the releases they've had, if you look at the Soul Wars box, if you look at some of the full armies that have been released, like the Daughters of Cain, the Ironeth Deepkin, what are they called? The Flying Dwarves. I forget what they're called. Whatever. You know, they've had some really good, beefy faction releases, and deservedly so. I think the system is, you know, far and away popular enough to warrant spending a load of time and effort on it. And of course, the more they do that, the more the system will grow and the more people will be interested in it. Hence, Soul Wars on its way to me and a friend, splitting it 50-50. Something that I never really would have thought about before. You know, it's actively interested me enough to grab it. Lord of the Rings has always just been like sat on the sidelines for me. I know when it came out it was very popular, but it felt like that declined relatively quickly, but I don't know how accurate that is. That could just be me talking shit. It happens a lot. But it always felt like, especially recently, it's felt like the kind of the afterthought, oh, and also we do this too. And it's like, okay, every now and again something will be released for Lord of the Rings, and I'll basically sit there and go, oh yeah, I forgot Lord of the Rings exists. It does, yeah, they do that too. Yeah, cool. Now though, there is going to be a new edition of Lord of the Rings, and the Battle of Pelennor Fields, which is what the box is called. It looks massive. It looks ridiculously big. 84 miniatures in there, all plastic. There's new sculpts of stuff. There's new models. There's a new edition of the game. It genuinely looks kind of interesting. And the thing that kind of has blown me away about it is that I just wasn't really expecting to see it. Like, we've obviously had the release of 8th, we've had the Dark Imperium box, we've had Soul Wars, which is the second edition of Age of Sigmar. I just didn't really see the same thing happening to Lord of the Rings because I didn't know that there were enough people playing to warrant it. What I'd love to know is how popular it is still, and whether this is aimed at existing players, or whether this is like a, I guess, not a reset, but a launch that is designed around getting people who are already Games Workshop customers but don't give a shit about that particular franchise, whether it's an attempt to get them in. Because the overall quality of what Games Workshop does model-wise is through the roof at the moment. Whether you actually like the design of some of the models or not, which, you know, that's an entirely subjective thing, I would say that objectively the overall quality of the models has gone up significantly. Even if you're only talking about materials, casting, packaging, all of that stuff, they feel a higher quality than they used to. Something that I found really interesting actually is I'm making my Emperor's Children at the moment. Got 4 Terminators done, working on the 5th one today at some point. No, I won't because of D&D. But I was going through my various bits boxes and I found some old pieces of Chaos Space Marine. And it's only a small thing, but the Chaos Space Marine kit has not changed. It's not changed for ages and ages and ages. And I know this because this is from a more recent kit, and this, you can see the plastic is a totally different colour. It's from a much older kit. Now, this is only a ridiculously tiny, non-scientific sample size, but I look at this guy, and on the helmet, on the horns, I cannot see really anything in the way of mould lines. I can't see any sort of imperfections, any sort of flaws. It's an old kit, but the actual cast is pretty damn good. I can't see anything that I would need to file down or mess around with. And I know I haven't touched it because it's not painted and there's no file marks on this thing. This is a lot older than that. I mean, you know, the plastic is a completely different colour, you can see that for a start. By contrast, on this, there's like a distinct mould line going all the way up that side of the horn. There's another one going all the way up that side of the horn. There's one across the centre of the head. God even knows how that happened. And it's the same story with a lot of the older stuff that I dig out. I've got a good mix of stuff from like years ago and last week. The kits that are still the same, or the kits that are still similar, the new ones are just better. It's the same thing with Space Marine bikes. I had a look at when I was, before my first daughter was born, I was intending on making a Space Marine bike army, and I was a bit shocked, I'm not going to lie, and mildly disgusted to see that it's the same fucking kit. I was like, are you serious? I bought Space Marine bikes when 13th Company came out in the Eye of Terror Codex during the original 13th Black Crusade, which, you know, the players took part in. I was like, it's the same goddamn kit. Are you taking the piss? Like, what is this? It's literally the same kit. It's all the same. I looked at my old 13th Company bikes, which are lying around the loft. The amount of garbage on those bikes is terrible. Like, the plastic is different thicknesses in different places. There are fucking lines all over it where you actually put the bikes together. They don't match up. They're like wonky. I was genuinely like, wow, I cannot believe I accepted this, because the newer box of bikes didn't have any of that. Like, the actual quality is above and beyond. Which is why now, when I look at stuff like this, when I look at the Lord of the Rings box, when I look at this new edition, part of me goes, you don't need this. You don't need Lord of the Rings. What would be the point? Would you ever have time to play it? Probably not. And then the other part of me goes, yeah, but look at all the models. You know the models are going to be good quality. You know they're going to be well made. You know from Dark Imperium and from the people you've spoken to about Soul Wars anyway, because my copy hasn't arrived yet, you know that they're going to be decent kits, they're going to be decent models, they're going to be good to paint. You also know that the chances are the rules are going to be nice and easy to get into. Which makes me sit there and go, Adeptus Titanicus doesn't look all that interesting to me. And yet for some reason, this new edition of a system that I don't give a shit about, that I've never played, that I've not been interested in before, mostly because it's new and it's big and it looks cool, part of me is going, yeah, you should give that a go. Games Workshop has gone from a company that I think handled customer relations badly, who didn't really seem to know what they were doing with their consumer base, to being a company that has somehow made themselves able to present someone who previously had no interest in something with a new product, and for them to go, oh no, that does look quite good, oh no. That alone is like, it's got to be worthy of some praise. Lord of the Rings is nothing to me. I don't care about the Lord of the Rings side of Games Workshop stuff. And yet, I'm looking at a box that has Battle of Pelennor Fields written on it, and I'm looking at the contents and going, I actually quite like everything I can see there. That actually looks pretty cool. That looks pretty good. I didn't think, coming out of the Forge World Open Day, that it would be a case of being less interested in Adeptus Titanicus. I wanted to be more interested. I definitely did not think, coming out of the Forge World Open Day, that the thing I'd be most interested in, outside of the model of Janisha Kroll, which we should mention quickly because it looks fucking great, is a new edition of Lord of the Rings, something that I've had nothing to do with ever before. I don't know whether to demand that Games Workshop stop being good at making things so that I can actually have money to myself for once, or whether to just congratulate them on the fact that, hey, you are doing a pretty fucking good job overall, to the extent that somebody who's not interested is going, oh, that looks pretty damn good. It's been not a weird Forge World Open Day, because I didn't expect a huge amount from it. I think if you were going into it kind of wanting massive news on everything, you were going to be ripe for disappointment. I will say that I am impressed with the contents of one box and don't seem to really care that much about the contents of the other. It's just the way round that it is has taken me by surprise. I guess the question is, what do you think of a new Lord of the Rings box, a new edition? Is it something you're interested in? Do you play Lord of the Rings? Are you one of the 4 people who still... Oh no, it's more than that, I'm taking the piss. But do you still play it? Is this something that looks interesting to you? Do you think this is going to get more people into it? Or do you think this might be a misstep? To be honest, I think it might get more people into it. I really do. It just looks pretty damn good. Hey, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to stop rambling now. Feel free to click any of the shit, all of that, any of it. Click it if you like. Don't click if you don't want to, as always. And I will see you for the next video. Toodaloo.